You're waking up on a Monday morning knowing that India lost against South Africa, but did you know there's a love affair between South Africa and Varun Chakravarti that he doesn't like at all? Now, this is exactly why you're here. We're going to talk about this and a lot more. So, wake up. Welcome to Wake Up Cricket, powered by Pavilion Picks. We are 4 away from 100 subs. I was going to say 100,000 subs, but one day, hopefully, we're 4 away from 100 subs. So, hit that subscribe button before we get into all of this.
Well, don't wake me up, Ashwin. It's 4 away from 100,000, is what I'd like to believe. All right, then, so let's get started. South Africa crushed India to shatter unbeaten streak in statement win. South Africa delivered a ruthless performance to dismantle India in Ahmedabad, ending their unbeaten run in an emphatic fashion. What had been billed as a final before the final turned into a one sided contest, with India losing control after a steady bowling power play and never recovering. Aiden Markram set the tone early with the Jan Kishan's wicket, while Marco Jansen and the rest of the attack maintained relentless pressure, striking regularly and denying India any batting rhythm. Chasing a target of 188 proved beyond India as wickets fell in clusters, culminating in Jansen dismissing Jasprit Bumrah to seal a comprehensive victory. The slow ball that induced a simple catch at extra cover summed up a night when nothing went right for India. South Africa, clinical in assessment and execution, sent a clear warning to the rest of the tournament contenders with a commanding all round display.
Now, yesterday was the perfect example of how really good strategy and you as a team having your best game is definitely going to defeat India, because India, we've known through the tournament, have not played their best brand of cricket. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that that
Yeah.
requires a whole other discussion. But just the fact that for South Africa, they were able to execute all of their plans. They had the best game with the bat, the ball, and also in the field, taking some crucial catches at crucial junctures. It just completely routed India. And this was also the very first time that India in this tournament came out to bat first,
Yeah.
or
But
chase,
chase,
bat
yes.
second to chase, and clearly proved that India wasn't up to the task. Now, they've always in this tournament had an issue at the top of the order. Either their openers have not been able to fire, Abhishek Sharma in particular. He finally got a run off his bat, but it didn't prove to be enough. He still played and missed quite a few. And same was the case even with the middle order, where there has been a struggle with Sky Tilak. There was a selection blunder with Akshar Patel not being picked ahead of Washington Sundar. First of all, Washington Sundar should not have been in the mix at all. There's so many things I want to get into, but there's such limited time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to bring up the Varun Chakravarti stat that we've been talking about since yesterday. Interestingly, it's not the first time Varun Chakravarti has only gotten one wicket in a T20 match, but it's the first time he's only gotten one wicket and has had an economy of more than 10, which was yesterday. He's gone at an economy of more than 10 5 times in his T20 career. 4 of them have come against South Africa, and one of them has come against South Africa in Ahmedabad. In Ahmedabad even before yesterday. So he doesn't necessarily like the ground, doesn't like the opposition at all. And we saw that play out yesterday. We saw South Africa, how they found him out.
Yeah.
And that's costed India games before, and that's costed India game even yesterday.
I think it was a fitting reply from South Africa, especially after the kind of ad that was rolled out by the broadcasters. South Africa had their cupcake and swallowed it whole.
Talking about fitting replies, England offered one to West Indies as well, rather Sri Lanka as well, as they surged to the top as Jack Stars in crushing win over Sri Lanka. England climbed to the top of Super 8 Group 2 with a comprehensive 51-run win over Sri Lanka and Palekele, boosting their net run rate in the process. Defending what looked like a modest 146 for 9 built around Phil Salt's 62, and despite Dunit Vilalage's impressive 3 for 26, England dismantled Sri Lanka for just a 95. Will Jacks turned the game with the ball, claiming 3 for 22 in a decisive opening spell of the chase, while Jofra Archer's 2 for 20 helped leave the hosts reeling at 34 for 5 inside the power play. Sri Lanka's batting imploded in a dramatic fashion, extending their losing streak to England to 12 matches. Dasun Shanaka's brisk 30 offered brief resistance, but poor shot selection and mounting scoreboard pressure undid the chase. While Villalage's all-face control with the ball stood out as a rare bright spark, England's clinical all-round display, spearheaded by the increasingly influential Jacks, has firmly placed them in control of their semi-final destiny.
Now, England heading into the Super 8s haven't made a lot of headlines for a lot of reasons in terms of how they almost lost matches. And even this game, they found themselves in the first innings being 68 for 4. And when I was watching, I thought, of course, England are doing England things. But it's also the fact that Sri Lanka is playing at home, so they would know exactly how to go about this. And so when they got all out, when they got England for just 140 odd, you would have assumed that this is it for Sri Lanka. I mean, Sri Lanka could just not have another upset, but it's a result they wouldn't necessarily have expected. A lot of people wouldn't have expected heading into this match, except Will Jacks not only pulled. It's almost like Will Jacks is the rabbit out of the hat, but not only with the bat but also with the ball. Because in this tournament he has an average of 60 with the bat and has a bowling average of just 10, which is insane. And the way he ran past the batters of Sri Lanka, and then how Sri Lanka just threw all of their wickets away. It almost seemed like, and I'm going to catch some strays here, but it almost seemed like the Indian women's team in the second T20 against Australia, where there was no intent, except they just threw the wickets away with that too. Like, it was so disappointing to see, because this was one of those games where they got one of the big nations under wraps, but they just couldn't open the gift.
Wow, that was very well put. And for people who didn't catch the reference, you need to start following women's cricket as well. That's all we'll say. But yeah, it's a very tricky one, right? Because Sri Lanka have had, of course, they got routed by Zimbabwe, which was not a result you would have expected. And when you're playing at Pallekele, which all these players have sort of grown up playing at, you would expect them to take charge of the conditions, which when you see the first innings, you'd feel like they did, because they were able to restrict England to 146. But it was absolutely mindless batting. I think earlier on the collapse, if you look at the top 5, nobody's even gotten into double digits. In fact, it is from Patum Nisanka or the captain whose name I'm forgetting.
Dasun Shanaka.
Dasun Shanaka, from his number onwards, where the batters actually got into double digits. So I don't know what they were up to.
Now, talking about gifts, there was at least one gift that Indian cricket fans received yesterday on Sunday. That was India A women overpowering Bangladesh to lift ACC Rising Stars Asia Cup title. India A women delivered a dominant all-round display to defeat Bangladesh by 46 runs in the finals of the ACC Women's Asia Cup Rising Stars on Sunday. Tejal Hasabnis led the charge with a composed unbeaten 51 off 34 balls, striking 3 fours and 2 sixes, while captain Radha Yadav added a vital 36 to steer India A to 134 for 7 after early setbacks. Hasabnis was named player of the match for anchoring the innings as Bangladesh skipper Fahima Khatun impressed with 4 for 25. In response, Bangladesh never found the momentum required and were bowled out for 88 in 19.1 overs. Shamima Sultana and Sarman Sultana made starts but could not build substantial partnerships. India's bowlers combined clinically, with Prema Rawat claiming 3 for 12 and strong support from Sonia Mendia and Tanuja Kanwar sealing emphatic title triumph.
Now, if you look at this emerging Asia Cup squad that India A has sent, there are a lot of players whose names you will recognize. There are players who regularly play the IPL. There are players who also played a bunch for India. And so, more or less, the kind of result that we eventually got is what we would have expected. Also, because of the fact that India is, in fact, the strongest side in Asia itself. So, really, this was expected. There's no big deal here. Having said that, it was important for them to be able to still get this result because it augurs really well for confidence. And also, it shows the kind of pool that we have in terms of our talent itself. Now, some questions that I would kind of ask if I look at this entire lineup is why someone like Radha Yadav or someone like a Tejal Hasabnis still playing in an emerging Asia Cup tournament, when I do think that there are chances that should be given to a lot of other rising women in the circuit right now.
Yeah, especially because Radha Yadav is an ODI winning World Cup player, and she doesn't need to, because she's played this format. She's played every format. I don't think she's played the Test format, but she's played for India for a long time, and so for her to play this doesn't really make sense. But also because she's not only the captain, because by the end of the tournament she was this joint highest wicket taker. But I don't think it's a thing for her to celebrate because she shouldn't be in the squad to begin with. Something that is good though is Vrinda, who has been performing in the domestic circuit, did get picked up for this tournament and was one of the top three highest run scorers with an average of 57. So she would get off this tournament being happy because she did perform. She got crucial 50s at that too. But yeah, like you said, I don't know why Radha Yadav was part of the squad. When I saw the squad to begin with, I was very happy before I knew what the tournament was. And then I thought it's quite insulting, if anything, that if I was being sent for a Rising Asia Cup emerging tournament after winning an ODI World Cup and then getting dropped from the T20 team, damn, I don't know how I would take that.
That's our take on it.
Absolutely. Now, talking about World Cup winning players, or should we zero in on the World Cup winning captain, albeit in the T20I format? Rohit's final flourish headlines ESPN Cricket for ODI batting nominees. Rohit Sharma's blazing 76 against New Zealand in the Champions Trophy final in Dubai stands out among the ESPN Cricket for Awards 2025 men's ODI batting nominees. Chasing 252 for their first ICC ODI title in over a decade, India needed early momentum on a surface expected to slow down, and Rohit delivered in trademark fashion. A six of Kyle Jamieson in the second ball of the innings set the tone, followed by crisp boundaries of Will O'Rourke and Nathan Smith as he surged to 47 of 35 inside 8 overs. His counterattack forced Mitchell Santner into the attack during the power play and ensured India stayed ahead of the game despite the spinners tightening the screws later. Though he did not bat through, Rohit's explosive start laid the foundation for a successful chase and helped India lift ICC silverware for the second time in 9 months, making it one of the standout ODI knocks of 2025.
I feel like this is very poetic, and I thought we would talk about it, especially because how the Indian batters batted yesterday on a slow surface where no batter could almost adapt themselves. I know it's a different format, so relatively easier because you get a little more time. But Rohit Sharma was able to do that in the Champions Trophy final. If you guys have forgotten, he was the only batter from the batting lineup to cross 50. In fact, the second highest scorer from the batting lineup was Shreyas Iyer with 48. Every other batter, I mean, KL Rahul had a 33 not out, but every other batter apart from him did struggle. Even if they didn't struggle, they couldn't get going because of the pace of the wicket, except Rohit Sharma didn't. I mean, he was good to go from the ball, one from the first over itself, and he scored those crucial 70 odd runs that the Indian team really needed while chasing the target. And yeah, people often forget what happened because of how often a World Cup or how often a Champions Trophy is around. But Rohit Sharma, in that, to be fair, I don't think it's the most important knock in that Champions Trophy. And there were a lot of other nominees which I thought would potentially win, hopefully for their sake. And it's an ESPN Cricket forward, so I don't know how much importance they give themselves about this.
I mean, what I was going to say is that Rohit, now the fact that he only plays the ODI format, at least is comforting for India in the sense that you have that experience up top. It's not going to be like the T20 format, but also for Rohit Sharma himself. He won the last T20 World Cup. He's the ambassador for this time's T20 World Cup. So he's in a bit of a phase with the people in a slightly higher league where he's just kind of gotten cozy and everybody loves to have the presence of Rohit around. And why wouldn't you? He's a superstar of the game. As much as we might talk about treating all players as equals, these are players who have at this point transcended the game in some sense. They're still playing the game, which almost feels odd because you have him coming in a suit to the stadium and then he ends up playing in the India jersey in an ODI series.
You know, it's a lot of Jai Shah stuff. Jai Shah influence.
No comments.
Now, talking about players who have kind of transcended the game, and Jasprit Bumrah, of course, being one of the names that gives you that impression. Bumrah breaks record, becomes India's leading wicket taker in T20 World Cups. Jasprit Bumrah has edged his name deeper into cricketing history, becoming India's highest wicket taker in ICC T20 World Cup history. The pace peerage achieved the milestone with another incisive spell, underlining his reputation as India's go-to bowler on the biggest stage. Renowned for his deadly Yorkers, pinpoint accuracy, and composure under pressure, Bumrah's rise to the top of India's T20 World Cup wicket charts reflects years of consistency across multiple editions. Time and again, he has delivered breakthroughs in crunch moments, cementing his legacy as one of India's greatest white ball bowlers.
I definitely don't think something like that is up for debate. In fact, even when we talk about constructing our best ODI lineup, our best T20I lineup, or even our best test lineup for that matter, Jasprit Bumrah, despite the fact that he's nowhere near the end of his career, I would hope, already finds his name into all of these squads. And yesterday was a great example of what Bumrah is able to do so well. When some of the things that we observed in the game yesterday were how the difference in the pace variation was what was making the South African bowlers so effective. For example, someone like Marco Jansen, who generally balls in the 140s, was able to have a slower ball around the 115, 120 mark. And in India right now, it's only Jasprit Bumrah who is able to produce something like that. And because of things like this, and because of his action and all of the things, the biomechanics, and just the sheer amount of variations that Bumrah has, he becomes so successful. But not only this, it is also the fact that he hits the right line, the right length, the right execution, the right fields. This is all his mastermind. And along with that, he knows on what pitch to use which combination of things, which I think has to be his biggest aspect.
Yeah, that is true. People often discount Jasprit Bumrah, the fast bowler, because of his action. They always talk about how, right, so he has that action and that's why he's so successful. But like Praatibh said, he's so smart about it. You often see this in the test format where he'll be one of the first bowlers from the team to read the pitch. And he's already read the pitch. He knows exactly what to do. And we see that in the shorter formats as well, where he already knows how to go about bowling on a certain kind of pitch. And for a bowler to do that is very, very difficult. It's often not rated as highly or not even talked about, reading off a pitch. But he does that so very well. And like Praatibh said, to get the combinations of variations right is very difficult in a T20 format, yet he does that very well. And there is no debate. Like Jasprit Bumrah walks into any playing 11 of any format of this generation without a doubt. He's by far the best all format bowler as compared to any bowler. There is no debate. Like he's the best across formats, across nations. If he's the best player India's had in the last couple of years, he's the best player India has had currently in terms of form. He's just the best.
Now, can I issue a 300 alert? What would be a reaction if I were to do so?
That it would be a Star Sports ad with no context, with no substance. It's one of those Star Sports ads that you watch and realize that the 15-year-olds part of the marketing campaign, and you're just disappointed as a pure cricket fan knowing that Star Sports broadcasts cricket in your country.
I think when I look at this graphic, I now start to believe that it is what our top three is going to collectively score through the tournament, which is what it looks like. Because, I mean, these guys, of course, Ishan Kishan's had a good run. But just on Star Sports, I mean, we also spoke about their South Africa ad itself. And it just becomes really crass and cheap for them to repeatedly do this. You would think that after yesterday's drubbing, at least it would drive some sense into the people who are running these campaigns. But unfortunately, despite all of the world being unhappy with what they produce, they still end up going a notch further each and every time. At least they had the courtesy to take down that India-South Africa ad when they faced backlash. So I think kudos to them in that regard.
I also think, if I'm not mistaken, and this might just be a rumor that I've read on Reddit and might not be actually true, I think they asked one of the players if an ad for Australia was made. And it was made. And because Australia didn't qualify, they didn't make that ad. And I'm glad. But yeah, it's just Star Sports over the last couple of years, we've made multiple videos just criticizing them. Not only because it's so easy, they make our job easy to criticize them, but also because, I don't know, like the idea of making good ads for cricket fans have just gone downhill. And I think they take the Indian fans for granted. And I feel like BCCI does that too. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, the creativity behind these ads has gone down. And that's quite unfortunate, if you ask me.
There is nothing much more to add here. Just silence for a minute for Star Sports.
But the T20 World Cup matches continue today. And so what do we have for the day?
Yeah, we actually have a very interesting Super 8 fixture today. That's Zimbabwe versus West Indies. It's important because those are the two teams that India is going to be taking on. So you have to watch out for that. India are going to be watching that fixture very closely. With India now with a net run rate of minus 3.8, they have to absolutely destroy these teams if they stand a chance to go into the semi-final. Of course, there are a lot of permutations and combinations. But this, for that reason, is is going to be a very exciting fixture.
Go on, Megha. Go on. Let us know who's going to win by your prediction, because we know the opposite always happens. So then predict, and then we would hope that Zimbabwe wins.
You see, that was very deliberate. And why did you say you hope that Zimbabwe wins? Did you expect me to talk about West Indies? No, Zimbabwe is
Yes,
going to lift the
yes.
World Cup. I'm going to maintain that stand throughout. And how their triumvirate in the pace department have done, that has been really impressive. So instead of focusing on who would emerge victorious, I'd rather focus on the players who have done well. And Shimron Hetma at number 3 has been kind of a game changer. So I'm playing it safe.
Well, there you go. That's your prediction. And so you know Hetma is not going to perform if you were to follow the trend. And the fast bowlers might not just do well. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, and we will see what happens after tonight when you join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. on Wake Up Cricket, powered by Pavilion Picks. Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Subscribe to get us to 100 subs. It's been a while. Might as well do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.